And that's good, and we have to make these gestures to our community because everybody's like, why isn't everyone working together? And we are all making efforts to work together. I know sometime in our head we have an idea of how we think working together should look. And we just have to find our own resolution on what it is and how it looks, because honestly, many people, they get up and look in the mirror and they don't like what it is that they see. And yet, you got to deal with it. You just have to continue to strive to be better. So just know in your conscious mind and your heart of hearts, we're all making steps towards working together, and on top of that, being civil, because there's a lot of savagery, intellectual savagery going on in our community. As you know, oftentimes I'm up here trying to bring some resolution to that intellectual savagery. Secondly, I want to give props to the priests yesterday that they ran the whole event very competently. I want to give props to the royal court also that was in support of the competent priest. I want to give props to the initiates because y'all stood up and y'all shined. Because we have a platform here for everyone to shine and everyone to contribute to the culture if you've shown yourself to be competent. And that's very important. This reminds me of the days like 20 years ago when I had to do everything. Some of y'all remember when I had to bring the altar stuff, I had to set up the altar, I had to do the teaching, I had to lead the dances and everything. So here it is, 20-something years later, and I didn't even have to speak at my own event. I didn't say one word. Plus, Hemet made it hard for me the way she spit that fire yesterday and dropped the light and left the whole layer of cold charcoal on fire, tar. Just like, how can I follow that? I'm like, nah, I'm not speaking. We good. But that's a powerful thing. It reminds me of traditional chiefs and kings. So just a brief lesson on how that works. Most chiefs and kings are not orators in traditional African society. You're not even allowed to speak directly to a king or a chief. The king or chief has someone called the linguist next to them at all times. And you speak to the linguist. The linguist speaks to the king speaks to the linguist speaks to you. If you need to see a representation of that, there's a movie Tom Cruise made called The Last Samurai. And he had to interact with an emperor. And on his way to interacting with the emperor, he was given a protocol in live time. Don't do this, don't look this way, and such back up this way when you finish. There's a whole protocol, which is interesting because that's in all traditional societies, and it's weird. As free as we like to say we are as Africans in America, we're more Americanized than we think. Because a lot of y'all be like, I ain't doing that. Why don't you just keep it real? Why don't you just talk to me directly? But the lesson that I learned in leadership is this, that when you're on your path and on your purpose, you confer with people of influence, and it is the people of influence who become the movers and shakers to get things done. Sort of like how you have Ra, who is the supreme Neter, and then you have the Neteru, who are his children, who are expressions of Ra. So any of your interactions with the Neteru, or you are interacting with Ra. Y'all got that? Once again, understand that we have a platform where you, the people, could come and make your contributions if proven competent. So we have our own criteria on how you prove yourself competent because not anybody could come off the street and say, oh, we should do this. Y'all should let me do this. You're like, first of all, who are you? We need to check your character, kind of like a spiritual blood test. Who are you? What's your family? What's your lineage? Are you crazy? So we're always going to have this talk about codes in our community, what qualifies, and people hate that conversation. It gets people very uncomfortable, but our people across all cultures always had standards. It's only when we come to society over here in the West that melanated African people be acting like everything is so free and willy-nilly, and they experience this turbulence when coming back home to their culture. So in that note, all the people online, y'all need to start making it out. Because the whole culture of the world has changed. So you might not have the opportunity to come through on your terms like you once thought it was. You're like, I'll get down there eventually. The way that we don't know if it's going to be another lockdown this year. So we hear this is our re-inauguration, reopening today, but they say that the virus numbers or whatever is going up. So it could be, they might have to pull back again. So you're like, damn, I was going to come down the next time. So we have to learn, this is the lesson in that. What he said, be careful of what you ask for, you just might get it. A lot of people, what we're doing is the answer to a lot of people's dreams. Oh, I wish I had this community, this spiritual community, a tribe that thinks like I do and have the same goals, and here we are, and next thing you know, now everyone got excuses why they can't make it. It's like you telling God, you're like, oh man, I gotta work. I got a lot of things going on. You're like, you dreamed it. This is the response to your dream, probably like from 10 years ago. You was the one the slow one that needed to catch up. Oh, things are going on. I got things to do. I work. I got a family. And I'm not throwing shade on no one. I'm 50 years old. I'm too grown for throwing shade. I'm a son of Rob. I bring the heat. Yeah, let's get that up. Like, I'll tell the stuff to your face. I ain't got time to play around. So it is what it is. So when I'm speaking about patterns of consciousness in our community. If it applies to you, so be it. But what I look like getting up here speaking about stuff that don't apply to nobody in the room? It's just too convenient for me to be speaking about all the people out there who don't know any better. I have to address the people in here because they're not the ones showing up in here for me to address their issues, so I can only address the issues of the people in the room. So I gotta drive up your street and turn on the headlights. Because we all still got work. I'm not gonna get up here and act like we all just totally good. So yesterday was an amazing experience. Because we got together as a community, we found ways to come together and to reaffirm each other without outside validation. And that's important. You have the outside world, and they have their accreditations and their acknowledgments, but the spiritual community is its own world, and we have our own ways of having accreditations and spiritual acknowledgments. We even have what they call reputable initiatory schools, and we have disreputable initiatory schools. Y'all following? It don't mean it's all good just because you're conscious. There's a bunch of nonsense and pettiness going on in here. That's life. That's what you see in that metaphor of APEC. So yeah, you're stepping into the light, but you're going to get challenged every step of the way. You can't just be talking lip service. Are you really the divine being? Do you have there's women in the room, do you have the intestinal fortitude to face evil? Do you have the intestinal fortitude and courage to face your own evil when you're looking in the mirror? And mind you, each one of us is a mirror of each other. So the mirror on the wall, that house is just a metaphor of the real mirror, which is the community. Y'all heard what you don't like in others is what you really having a conversation about a portion or an aspect of yourself. So you need some intestinal fortitude to be on this path. So college degrees are cool, but they mean nothing in the spiritual society. Conversely, spiritual accomplishments are cool, but they mean nothing in the world of academia and in the corporate world. So you have cats be like, I'm chief priest, blah, 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 such and such, such and such. And you be like, Negro, did you get the account? Can you spell? And I say blessings and blessings to all of those who found a way to be accomplished in both, right? And because I'm not trying to cast aspersions on Western education, but I'm just giving props to those who prioritize their spiritual education and their spiritual accomplishments. Because you all are spiritual people, right? But you also are all working people also, right? Raise your hands if you have degrees. Okay, so you have the blessing and the blessing to walk in both worlds at the same time. Because there's a lot of people that's criticizing religion. Y'all see it online. Sometimes I feel like I'm defending religion because by proxy, that criticism that they're having towards religion would go on us too. So we're like organized spirituality. So there's a lot of people that criticize and complain about things that we do. And if you notice, those that complain about what it is that we do, they don't have what we have, which is a community, which is a family. A lot of those people that say things like that, they have nothing. But what happens, this becomes a threat to their self-value. What are we talking about? How is what we're doing a threat to other people's self-value? So if we're doing something great, what happens is a lot of people think they're legends in their own mind. Because there's a lot of information out there, so you read a few books and you think you're authority on something, so you're legends in your own mind. So here you see this powerful spiritual community, beautiful women and men, the pageantry of it all. So if you're a legend in your own mind and you're not there with all these powerful people, then you'd be like, hold up, nobody asked me to be there. Nobody asked me for my opinion. Them niggas is corny. Ain't that what happened? No, they corny. Because what they have to realize that if they were really serious, if they were really important and is great and a legend in their own mind, what they would come up with would look similar to what we got going on. So you ain't gonna be able to get away from the organized thing. You're not gonna be able to get away from leadership. Wherever there's organization, there's going to be leadership. Whether that be good or bad. In the African traditions, we're known to bring forth powerful and strong leadership. There's no tiptoeing around it. We have rulers that rule with an iron hand, if anything. And some of y'all might not like it when you read the history, but that great history you talking about when you put in people's plaques and statues of Mansabusa and them, the cats was terrible. You probably wouldn't like them in person, but you talking about them at the same time because of that same thing that you might not like was part of the foundation to their greatness. So, what we do is not about being perfect. What we do is about imperfect people trying to be patient with each other as we work our stuff out, as we try to release some baggage along the way. None of us is ready-made. None of us is already arrived. This thing is not about who's the blackest or who's the most African, because that's always the underlying thing when I'm looking at everybody's posts. Everybody's trying to out-Africanize each other or out-black. Something. We keep getting all these exotic names for saying black. Like, oh, I'm not black, I'm Moorish. Oh, I'm not black, I'm Israelite. Oh, I'm Kimite. All fancy names for black or dark or melanated. We need to stop playing and getting locked into language, whatever language it be, whether it's Meadownet or whatever. We need to use the language to understand it and liberate ourselves through it. And understand people are at where they at. If they're saying black, just understand you know what the heck they're talking about. You know? So, we're not trying to be the blackest or the most African. Being African is about these three things. Number one, being African is about character, having character. In the Ifa tradition, they say Iwa Pele or Iwa Rere. And here we say Ket Nefer. Being African is about having good character. So these are the things you judge all these other people out here that's saying they're so black African power. Where's your character? Number two, it's about building family. Your personal family. And if you can't build with your personal family, you build with your spiritual family. After you build with your spiritual family, concurrently, then you build the tribe. After you build the tribe, then you build the nation. When we are listening to people's narratives online, they're going straight to global. They want you to care for the brothers and sisters in Australia like you care for the people in the room, and it don't work with that. Our people always been a tribe of people. And there's nothing wrong with that. You got to take care of home first. I can't help them in Australia if I'm honestly ignoring my brother and sister right here, 10 toes to my right and 10 toes to my left. Am I saying anything That's boring, y'all. Thirdly, after you've developed your character, after you're operating in proper character with your home family, your spiritual family, your tribe, and your nation, then as you build and as you develop, you got to find a way to prosper in the world without harming nature. African tradition has always been into being into balance with nature. Sometimes we don't know what that looks like, so sometimes we get into our culture and we think we got to give up the Western world or anything in the Western world and go back to living in the bush and the forest and stuff, because that's people's idea of being in tune with the nature. And there's some truth to it, but you could be in tune with nature by acknowledging the seasons and making specific adjustments consciously. And your diet is fasting, so you could be just as spiritual living in the world but not being of it. Is it making sense? This is not about who can be the angriest or the most outraged. It's that going on in our community. It's like you get judged and you get points on who's the most upset. So people are actually upset with you if you're not walking around upset. Ain't you mad? What the Karis once said, real bad boys move in silence. Just do the work. And waking up in the process of consciousness is a process and stages. Do anyone know when they actually woke up? It don't work that right. What happens when you actually wake up, you understand that there was a series of conversations you had 10 years prior that contributed to you waking up, right? Like, yeah, they always told me the Bible was beer. Somebody told me that Kemet was such and such, such and such. So it's a process. So why are we so much in our ego that we think it's gonna be a word from our mouth that's just gonna start waking people up? And it ain't none of your business. That's the ancestors and the deity working on that person in live time. Everyone is waking up, even the ones that you think is dead sleep. Nobody's sleep anyway. Everybody's woke. Everybody's so woke that they're corny. You're like, looking at the posts online, you're like, they think they deep. Even the Christians that you thought was deep thinking they deep. So it's a good thing. Remember I said, what you're looking for, there's an answer to it already. It just might not look like what you thought it was supposed to look like. But everybody's woke. They can't even get everybody on board with the vaccination. So you even got the Christians with the conspiracy theory. So there's serious wokeness going on. So the most revolutionary thing y'all could have done was to become initiated in your culture. We talk about revolution and they think it's supposed to look like wearing black and saying black African power. What y'all did to become initiated in the culture is the most revolutionary thing that you could do. This ain't about red, black, and green. It ain't about wearing the African medallions and the dashikis. Then notice when it comes to the actual culture, they be like, oh, that's that spooky stuff. Like, how can we be black African power, yet your lifestyle don't reflect the actual black power that you're saying that we got to get back to? And that dashiki thing is a mockery of traditional African dress. The dashiki thing comes from China. It was hot back in the 60s and 70s when nobody knew any better. And it might be hot now, aesthetically. But it was supposed to be a step towards actually dressing in traditional African garb. And I ain't knocking nobody who got dashikis, but I'm knocking you if you don't got no traditional African garb and you got dashikis, if you claim that you're living the culture. So all that's to say is that we can't talk about we lost our religion and our culture. It's back. It's just time for everybody to get on code. We don't have to have historical conversations. We need to now make history. We need to be a part of people that's doing things that's historical. We're doing historical things now, it just probably don't feel like it at this point. So the stuff that Matt was saying, this is gonna be in the museum one day. Imagine 1,000 years from now, this is gonna be in the museum. Thousands of years now for posterity, we're online digitally. The digital thing is the new metal nexus, the new heart is there forever. Nobody gotta trust no book that I wrote for somebody to mistranslate. They're seeing me live time forever. So, let me sum up the weekend since him had dropped that fire. I couldn't follow behind. So I'm an MC, so you know certain people not to go behind after they get in that cypher and do what they do. Like, nah, I'm good. So I'll say something like what I would have said if she didn't do what she did. So once again, it was good that we came together outside. It was a long time coming, right? A lot of people were excited about it. We've been rocking out since Friday night. So it was good and it was important to do Wet Pet outside. We can't talk about we're children of the sun and all that stuff and we're doing everything inside of the building. That's like studying what a tree is and you got all the trees outside and you're up here reading a book. Like, or at least take the book outside and find out what the actual tree in the book looks like in live time. So we were out there in the sun and that was very important. What you learn that there's many forms of nutrition. There's nutrition from your food, there's nutrition from the earth, and then there's, I know it sounds crazy, there's nutrition that you get from each other. Y'all saw the importance of being in each other's energetic field. That's just as important as the food. Like, by not being in each other's presence, some people were being depressed. That was the missing nutrition that they actually needed. Some people take advantage of that. When you take advantage of that and you try to subsist directly on that, that's what you call a parasite or a vampire. So remember, everything in life has positive and negative polarities. So we had lost some magnetism or some polarity over a year and a half being in our house, getting false magnetism from online, the screens and all of that. That's false frequencies of light that's actually agitating negative health conditions. So we needed to get out there and ground our feet in the earth, in the top, right? Also, we needed vitamin D. Vitamin D, we need, the sun directly feeds us. This ain't no mystical stuff. This is stuff that can be backed by the white man's science. No, it's not. It's just science, brother. I know it's just science, but it's things that our ancestors knew, but just never had to say. You shouldn't have to speak was understood already, but we become, as smart as we are, we got so dumb that we need to be saying stuff and proving stuff that was supposed to be already intuitively understood. So just understand, like, when the sun hits us, we convert some things in our body into vitamin D. Vitamin D is a hormone. Vitamin D gives you, supports your sexual hormones as a male or female. So vitamin D from the sun. And what is hormones? Hormones are chemical messengers that help you thrive in life. So we need to be in the sun to help us be stronger black men and women. Nobody ever put it that way before, right? Y'all heard of cholesterol, right? If we don't get sun, that makes us as black men, as well as black people, susceptible to high blood pressure. Most people don't know that that's a hidden culprit for black folks. Our high blood pressure comes from, or some folks' high blood pressure comes from not getting enough sun. So when we get into that sun, all we need is like 20 to 30 minutes. 20 to 30 minutes in the sun, then transform that cholesterol through the liver into vitamin D, which is that hormone that helps you thrive. So being in the house a year and a half was detrimental to a lot of people. So you needed to get out in that heat to melt, because cholesterol is blood fat at the end of the day. You need a certain amount of fat in your body to produce healthy hormones. But we needed the sun to activate that hormone. Y'all got it?
Sure.
So yesterday at Wet Repent, it wasn't a lot of talking. When you come into real African ceremony, it's not a lot of talking. You got to understand, we're studying societies that knew who they were already. There was no lecturing before, like they came to rock out. You know, I know I could talk, you know, the Session Masood could talk, Jabari could talk, but we can't have a whole culture predicated on talking. We can't have a whole culture predicated on appealing to newcomers, even though there will always be a lesson for the newcomers, but we're just at the point of the evolution, we're ready to rock out and see what it do. Right? Am I right? So, the Session of Soup broke down what Wet Repent was yesterday. I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to go into another interpretation of it. Remember, our tradition is about layers. There's always layers of understanding. So we could study the history books and we could talk about what our ancestors did it and why they did it. We have to have our own reasons of why we do it. We have to find why is it sacred to us. It can't just be sacred because they did it. We have to find out why is it sacred to us. That's why our motto is from the ancient legacy to the living legacy. Why are you committed? You're like, our ancestors did it, but why are you committing? And this is where the discrepancy comes. People are trying to cheat us out of our own personal experiences with these forces that our ancestors were very much intimately connected with. So how we celebrate Wet Rempet is actually a combination of two holidays. Wet Rempet is the opening of the year, but before that it was called the Heriyu Rempet. Heriyu Rempet. Heriyu Tepi Rempet is the 5 Neteru over the year. So that is celebrated several days ahead of coming into Yavalo. Y'all need some water? Y'all got it? So the 5 Neteru over the year, which are who? Say it in order out there. Who can say it in order? All right. So 5 Neteru over the year. So those 5 Neteru, we access, those 5 Neteru assist us in how we connect with the divine. Y'all got that? The 5 Neteru we use to assist us into connecting with the divine. Now we have to have this conversation about theology. It's a very, very popular talking point in the community because our community is being polarized. They're either gonna say you spooky or you got the atheist thing. So the atheists, they respect certain expressions of culture, but on the other end, they think it's all nonsense. So people are saying, I'm scientific, I'm not spooky, as though they don't see how both can be interconnected. What the Infodisi says, spirituality is science that you can confirm. Science is spirituality that you can confirm, and spirituality is science that's yet to be confirmed. And really, science comes from studying spookism. They be like, what is this stuff, y'all? What are y'all doing over there? What's this drumming thing? What's this drumming thing that people doing? And they get people to study it, and they take 10 of it. After 10 years, we found that music does benefit you. What's these boogeyman herbs, this spooky stuff? What is this shaman praying over stuff? What is this? Then years later, they have what you call pharmacology. Pharmacology is a Greek word for magical plants. Go figure. And they do the same thing. You go to the doctor, you're like, just take a little bit of such and such 3 times a day, or whatever. It's all plant medicine. Cool. So we have to have this conversation about theology. There's this conversation about monotheism, there's polytheism, and more importantly, there's monism. And these are just labels that we give to them. Remember, reality is reality. We be doing this thing, projecting things onto reality and be like, that's what it is. There's no such thing as monotheism. No such thing as polytheism. There's only monism. Monism is the oneness of the divine. A lot of people think polytheism is the oneness of the divine. Polytheism is elevating one God over the rest. They be like, there's no greater God than Allah. La ilaha illallah, you know, they be doing that thing. There's no greater God than Allah. So they, in that statement, they're recognizing that there's other gods. He's just like, my God is better than yours. And plus, why you gotta get down or lay down. That's how that goes, right? So, monotheism is a high science, but the reality is monism, the study or just the oneness of the divine. But watch this. Polytheism, so-called polytheism, is the most practical. Did y'all get that? Do you think you understand what I'm saying? Polytheism is the most practical. You got monism, it's all oneness with the divine. One God, it sounds good, it's very abstract. How do you walk in power with something that's so abstract? Even when we talk about netta, we say, because everybody's fighting disassociation with the God word, and then you find out that netta is very similar to the God concepts. Everything that we can perceive and everything that we cannot perceive, everything yet is no thing, right? Then they be like, walk in power with that. You're like, what? How do I walk? I can't. Nobody saw it. Never spoke to nobody. Nobody saw the face. Even they dealt with that in the Bible. Don't y'all remember the Israelites are always going back to polytheism? God was having to destroy y'all. He's like, y'all niggas still worshiping them idols? Didn't I show y'all such and such? They kept going back to the Kemetic gods because the so-called polytheism is the most practical. So the Africans did it, the indigenous Native Americans did it, everybody did, even the so-called Israelites and those so-called monotheism, they always still fall back to polytheism because it is the most practical. To talk about this whole divine thing, remember, the reality is monism, oneness of the divine, so that absorbs monotheism as well as polytheism. We having a good conversation here. So, polytheism, I said, is the most practical. So we're talking about wet repent. We talk about the 5 net to the row over the year. Why do we do that? It's to access the divine, that thing that's beyond our understanding. We understand the thing beyond our understanding through the net to the root. Now watch this. So this is what my hand. I got 2 hands. That's called Yahweh. Say that. Yahweh. You got 2 legs, Rediu. So I could do push-ups. And then we got the Ab. Say the Ab. That's the heart. In our path, we're taught to walk with heart, to live with heart. We have Ankh in Ma'at, and we have Ab in the Ma'at, to live with heart, to live with courage, to live with passion. So if I do push-ups, the push-ups, excuse me, I got the COVID, just call something. So, what did I just say? I said, so I'm doing push-ups. Push-ups cause stimulation of the heart and causes the heart to reciprocate by giving blood to the muscles, so the muscles become strong. Same with the legs. I could do squats, and it causes stimulation, it causes the heart to reciprocate by sending pressure, energy, and blood to the legs, so my legs become strong, my arms become strong. That's how working the 5 net through over the year, when we work with the 5 net through over the year, it sends stimulation to the divine, causes the divine to reciprocate by sending energy back, which causes us in result to be able to thrive in the world. We say metal netta, we talk about sesh metal netta, which is the written words of netta, right? And when we're looking at the language is all about symbols in nature, right? We had this conversation about reading in books and going outside. Our ancestors did. They was outside first, then they wrote it down in books. So now there's a whole art and science of studying the language. So now we talk about the Neteru personifications of the laws of what? Nature. So it's all language. So this thing, our relationship, our love affair with the Neteru is about understanding the language of the divine, not written word. If we're talking about nature and understanding nature, you're trying to understand the language of the divine. So if the Neteru personifications of divine law, now you see what I'm talking about when I say polytheism is the most practical. So now, then if you understand that, then Satesh is just a dialect of the divine. Or Set is a dialect of the divine. Haruor is a dialect. Asar is a dialect. Nebuchadnezzar is a dialect of the divine. And the more you start learning about colors, that's another dialect. You start understanding about numbers, that's another dialect. Then the divine starts giving reciprocation, starts communicating to you through colors and language. So the more you know these dialects, the more you can have an authentic relationship with the divine. So polytheism, so-called polytheism, is the most practical way of walking in that power. The rest of them is just talking theoretically. Sometimes they mistakenly trick themselves into that power because they don't know the language. While the language, the Neteru is trying to communicate to you at all times because it's about monism, the oneness. So the so-called polytheism is the path to how to walk in power in that oneness. I think I spoke a few weeks back about how the white man science is now confirmed since y'all are happy that it's good to sing and dance. Some of our people, they make fun of people. Oh, y'all singing and people are dying in the street. Yeah, that people are dying in the streets and y'all Negroes in there singing and dancing. And understand that's the power of the church. That's what keeps the church together, that power of song. Church represents community. That whole, it ain't about the Jesus songs. It's just about the relationship of the call and response that happens in singing and dancing. So now the white man science says good. So now the next level of the so-called white man science, which is our ancestral science, remember we knew it and didn't have to leave it in the book for people to read about it. They spoke about awe. They're now speaking about awe, like AWE, awe-inspiring experiences. What is that? Some people, their whole reason they became Kemetic is because they were in awe of Baba Heru and them carrying this Ankh 30-something years ago. Some people's like, I want to be an Ankh carrier. They didn't even know what it meant to get it. They were just like, I don't care what it means. I'm just going to somehow get on the path. I'm going to do what I got to do to get one of them Ankhs. That was awe. And that awe carried a lot of people to the point where they're Ankh carriers. Like back in the day, 30 years ago, when I was in awe of Baba Heru and Mfudisi's personal expression and representation of the Kemetic legacy. That was back when I was Muslim. I was wearing the white, I was wearing the jalabia, and I was coming to Mfudisi's spot back in New Brunswick called Black Gold. He used to have these Friday night study sessions. And I'm there, and I'm side-eyeing everybody, because, you know, the ancestors working on my heart. I'm gonna be like, probably these idol worshipers, they get on the Salam to Mustaqim, get back into the oneness with Allah. I'm gonna see what they saying here. You know, they working on me. I'm thinking I'm gonna influence them. You know, and Fadisa was like, yeah, brothers, yeah, y'all gonna come on home one day. And I'm like, no, Negro, you gonna come on home to the Salam to Mustaqim. And I remember Baba Heru came through all majestic and royal. He had this copper belt buckle, was like an 8-pointed star. He had his long locks back in there. He had, you know, Baba like rolling with the women, and they came in there. They did the opening away, blinging them on. You know, then he was like, oh. And you know how Baba be adding them other octaves. Like, yo, what is that? I never seen nothing but like that. I thought Islam was the joint. I was doing the Sufism thing, and I saw that. I was like, that's a whole other experience. And I hear a lot of people say some things about Baba like he was this mean guy, and I was like 18 or 19 at the time, and he did nothing but show me love. I had my crew, we all in the Jalabiyas, and was like, what's up? And you know, he come here, my Nubian brothers, and he gave us the hug, and said, like, he just was smiling, he was just happy, he embraced me, he didn't judge me. And 30 years later, I said, it got me. It got me. And I got several, and a chain. You know, so it just shows how far awe can take you. Our ancestors understood awe. That's why they had the rituals with the animal heads. That's why they had the dressing in white with the accoutrements, the pageantry of ritual. That's why they had big buildings and stuff like that, was to have awe-inspiring experiences. Science is now saying that awe-inspiring experiences could change your perception of time. It could make you care for others more. It could lessen materialism. And it can help the underserved, not the undeserved, but the underserved in the community. And that's a powerful thing. Like, for instance, we got compression, y'all separated. Wasn't y'all just at the Grand Canyon? That was a powerful picture. That was some professional level stuff. So now, was that an awe-inspired experience?
It was beyond that.
It was beyond awe? Yeah, you got no words. So now check it out. Here he is at the canyon. It was a historic moment. That's something you're gonna be able to pass to your daughter. You're like, yo, that's my daddy up there. So you in this canyon. So now while you out on the verge of that canyon, there's certain experiences that strike you a certain way to make you forget about everything that you thought was important. Was you thinking about the struggle of our people? No. So it's changing the perception of time. Was you thinking about the bills you had to pay when you get back from the trip? Was you thinking about how tired you were? Like, no. These certain experiences make you transcend your perception of time. Whatever happened in the past don't matter. Whatever I'm about to do at the end of the week don't matter. This is beautiful. This makes you tap into something and let you know, like, yo, there's something greater going on out there, and all I got to do is show up, and my life could be magical. Change the perception of time. Care more for others. Like, how the Grand Canyon gonna make me care more for others? Y'all ain't noticed how Kemmunion been softened since he was So remember, so you out there, you out there, the ocean has that effect too. Go out to the ocean at night, 10, 11 o'clock at night, that ocean humbles you. You can go out there 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you're like, oh, this is beautiful. Go out there 11 o'clock at night, it's scary. You're like, yo, what's going on? You feel something extra going on, and it's humbling. So you're out there experiencing this thing, something's going on in your heart chakra, is causing something to have some shifts, changes, and transformations that's happening. And then you're like, so you probably was still in awe driving away from there, right? You just went, it's crazy, man. It's crazy, man. You're like, well, how does this make me care for others? So here he is, they come back from this long excursion as family. Then they come to our family Friday night. Then what happens is, you want to share that awe-inspiring experience. You know you can't bring the Grand Canyon to our dinner Friday night, so you be like, yo, let's get together and do some things, because I want to have that experience with you. True. So it increases the care in that way. True. Understand, it says lessen materialism. Like, that sounds abstract, right? So once again, using his thing, when you out there at that canyon, or you out there at night, 12 o'clock at night, you hear the ocean go, you be like, damn, this is how, and the wind be out there, you're like, why is the wind so high at night? It ain't like that at the daytime. So it's just different things going on in the cosmos that you're too distracted from in your everyday life. How can it lessen materialism? So once again, as you leave the beach, as you leave these powerful awe-inspiring experiences, it changes your perception on what you thought life was supposed to look like. Then you realize what's more important to me than money and all this other stuff is the experience. You be like, yo, I gotta get with my people. I wanna have a bunch of experiences like this. You be like, damn, I'm like 40 years old. I only got so many summers left. Like, we gotta put it in perspective like that. We ain't living for, we live forever energetically, but in this vessel, you got limited time. So we have to ask ourselves, are we making the most out of this time? So you're like, let's have richer experiences. Let's go in. So y'all came back in the energy, and as well as coming from this COVID thing, the energy that y'all gave in the ritual was different. You had a new appreciation from what you thought you already appreciated. There's levels to the game, there's levels to that. Serves the underserved. So if you could get people that feel like they're victims to experience something awesome, if you could duplicate that experience Kemmunion y'all said Ray had, if we could create that in a ritual environment from the underserved, if you could get them to show up and they experience that, then they experience that there's something greater than life, and that all they gotta do is show up and things don't gotta be the way it was. Then you start making different decisions. See, what we're doing here, we're not specializing in giving money to people or even superficial things like giving food to people. Those are all superficial gestures that people expect for you to do because you said you was conscious. What y'all doing for the community? What's your receipts? The receipts is that we reconstructed a way of life for our people. And it's there for them when they get ready. The operative word is when they get ready. Because when you're not ready, you won't see it. You be like, y'all look crazy with y'all yellow and white going on. If you're not ready, you won't see it. because they're waiting for somebody, they're waiting for handouts. What we look like just giving people, indiscriminately giving people $2,000 just because they said that they needed it. We watch the behavior going on in our community. Everyone got a whole bunch of excuses why it's okay to drink and smoke. All the stuff we said was bad for the past 40 years. Notice how everybody's reinterpreting it. It's okay to drink, it's okay to smoke. The ancestors did it. Somebody's ancestors did it, but was it right? No. Was it productive, or is it constructive? So they want money to do what? Buy drugs, alcohol. They want people to get them out of so-called certain living conditions. Oh, the book is hard on the, I'm hard on them. I said, I bring the heat. I won't do the shade, but I bring the heat. What do you say? You could take a person out the ghetto, but not the ghetto out the person. So those same people turn good neighborhoods into ghettos because they didn't make the shift. Here, what we deal with is the inner parts and the inner thoughts. So go back to the awe-inspiring thing. So what we do is try to specialize and create an awe-inspiring experience to make each other care for each other more, to lessen materialism. Understand, when you study our ancestors, you don't find palaces. Y'all notice that? Y'all don't find palaces and mansions. They did awe-inspiring stuff. They left temples there to continue inspiring us, but you don't find too many personal effects. Their houses was made out of mud. They knew that they were visitors just passing through. They were like, I ain't staying here. Man, I'm good. Do you understand our ancestors had up to 15 festivals a month? That's like half the month. Could y'all imagine doing wet rim pet like that, like 15 days a month? You ain't got nothing to be mad at. You might be like, yo, please, ancestors, take me to the another dimension. I'm tired. And they won't let me rest. They literally out there dying dancing. They understood that they was passing through, so materialism wasn't heavy. That's why the stuff that they left was rich, and rich in symbolism. So that experience yesterday, we had awesome weather, right? It couldn't have been no more perfect. It wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. Y'all saw that the rain held up till last night, and it rained overnight, so Satesh listened to us, and like, all right, y'all go ahead. Y'all good, y'all got it. So it was an awesome day with awesome weather. We did awesome things with awesome people. So that's what we need to inspire and shift to as we go forward. Now in closing, it's time for everybody to get on the team. We've been tiptoeing around that past 20-something years in the conscious community. You can't be independent. There's only interdependence. That's the African thing, interdependent. That independent thing is cancer. When your cells break off and they be like, I'm gonna do this over here. That's called cancer. Or that contributes to that cancer. Get on the team. Especially initiates. As initiates, you forfeited your right to not play. Y'all hear? You forfeited the right to not play. If you don't want to play to the end of the game, then don't join the team. Stay out there with the kids on the play court. But if you're going to be in the pros, you play to the end. If you're going to play with the pros, you got to suit up and boot up. You're going to, even if you second string, the cats on the bench is fully booted up and suited up, knowing that they ain't going to get called. And a lot of people be looking down on these guys, oh, he's not good as Michael Jordan. You're like, yes, he is. Or else he wouldn't be second string, because if something happened to Michael Jordan, you need second string to come out. It's just the people have an emotional connection with the main characters, but them cats on the bench is just as good. And guess what? They got to show up for practice too. They got to stay warmed up on the night of the game too, because you never know when you get called. You can't be, oh, you want me to play? Like, yeah. What was all the working out for? Go out there and stop playing.
That's right.
You know what? I realized that all these years that, I watched that Last Dance thing with Michael Jordan, and just conversations that go on with Michael Jordan about him. He wasn't a nice guy. He wasn't a likable guy, but he was a great man. The fans have a love affair with Michael Jordan, but he was a beast to the team. Yeah.
And NBA players. And then I can
Now, I just read an article the other day that Scottie Pippen ain't spoke to Michael Jordan since back then. And you be like, how was that possible? They wasn't best friends? He's like, nah. Michael Jordan wasn't nobody's friend. This is the difference between Jordan and Pippen. There was a certain level of character that they brought to the game. Cool. Pippen was tight. Who was the white boy? Kukos. Yeah. Yeah, they was dynamic. They was a problem. They made history because of Michael Jordan. That thing that they was calling the a-hole was the thing that made them who they were. You be like, so y'all wasn't best friends? You being best friends ain't required for the work. It helps, but it's not required. I saw one episode, it was after Jordan left, and it was Pippen's turn to be the man. This Negro. Because he got mad at the coach for not giving him that one shot to win the game, he sat out and sabotaged them for several games. I don't know, do I got that story right? One game. He was mad. He should have given it to me. And they still won the game, right?
hit the shot.
He hit the shot. That was supposed to be mine. So he sabotaged the team because he was upset at a call that was the right call. This is a lesson. This is mythology lived out in live time through our new heroes and sheroes. So I'm asking you all, who are you on this team? There's no judgment, no aspersions cast, but this is mythology in live time. Who are you on this team? So Pippen had his chance to be great and memorable, but he messed his chance up. Still a great player, but not to the same level of greatness of Michael Jordan. So we have sentimentality. The sentimentality could serve the team, but that sentimentality could be a crutch also to destroy teams. Because how we see it on the outside, we're all living in fantasy while the team is living a dream. That was supposed to be bars. Y'all supposed to say, oh. Y'all like that. I don't do the shade, but I bring the heat when I got a response off of that. But anyway, I don't want to go on rambling, but so once again, just contemplate on that metaphor of the team. Where do you play? Or where do you place at on that team? Are you in it? Are you suited up and booted up? Are you ready and prepared for the unexpected when I throw you the ball? Right?
So,
all right.
You literally are.
What position? All right, let's stand up on the. I kind of missed the roll call for the people online, so y'all, just so y'all know, Himmet is in the chat, so y'all can still holler out. We're gonna find a way to integrate that back in, just to honor that relationship that we had for over the past year and a half. That's important. Our group become fond of that whole process. But all right. You go with peace and satisfaction. Kemmunion Matep. Do you know Uncle Jocelyn? Do you know Uncle Jocelyn? Okay. Bring it back into the chest, round out, count of three, lock, salute, all right.
Okay, I want to just get a little bit of order here to how we're going to do the offerings. Can I please ask Hemnetta Mensara, Abu Chesret, and the Royal Court, including our elders, you all can go out into the other room to the offerings first, and then after they are done, the community may go out into the other room for the offerings. But yes? Please only take one or two things for now, and then after everyone has had a chance to select if there are things that are remaining, you all may go back and take additional. But for now, please first, Hemnetta, Abu Chesret, and the Royal Court, including Shepset Mekatira and Sheps Ranub. Additionally, thank you all for your donations today to Communion. If you left them at the altar, or if you leave them in the bowl by the door, or you can give them to Sir Chef Armin Cow at the back. Those of you who are online, we appreciate your donations as well, and your contributions to our work that are given by Cash App, $ Temple of Anu, or PayPal to templeofanu@gmail.com. Shami Mateb, everybody.
What about people who didn't attend yesterday? Huh? What about people who didn't attend yesterday?
They could still take offerings, because we got